you for joining our webinar here this morning. We've got a lot of great information to share, so we'll go ahead and get started. Today we're going to talk about how Facebook can be used to convert engaged prospects and acquire net new customers. I'm Thomas Stern, SVP of Client Services here at Zog Digital, a leading digital marketing and technology company. I'm joined by Chris Marino, VP of Social Media here at Zog. We're also very excited to have Nora Matson join us, our partner manager at Facebook. Today we're going to cover a number of different topics. They include overlaying website visitors with Facebook targeting capabilities, matching customer database information with Facebook user data, using profiling to target lookalike audiences. Nora is also going to go through a preview of the latest advertising format and targeting technology on Facebook. And then we're going to wrap up with client case studies and results and a brief Q&A. So before we get into the Q&A, you can submit questions through the webinar control panel. Also, we're going to be addressing any questions that come up before, during, and after the presentation with the hashtag FBZogROI. And then once we've had a chance to go through the recording of the webinar and put together a white paper, we'll be sending that out to all attendees of the presentation next week. So before I hand it over to Nora, I wanted to explain why we asked Facebook to join us for the webinar today. And it starts with a model created by Forrester Research called Lifecycle Marketing. What we love about this model is that it expands on the traditional sales funnel and even the customer journey, and that's something that we see here. The lifecycle model adds layers of marketing actions with customers' activities to help identify critical points of management and handoff between internal teams and supporting agencies. As an agency that provides digital marketing services here at Zog, we love this model because our marketing initiatives can clearly be aligned with client objectives and budget can be strategically allocated. The beautiful thing about Facebook is that it can support and in many cases complete over 75% of the marketing actions listed here. Now, we're not saying by any means that Facebook should represent your entire marketing mix, but what we found through engagement and conversions on the platform is that there really is no other channel that can help marketers accomplish so much of what's important to the customer lifecycle. So with that, we'll hand it over to Nora at Facebook to talk about advertising products to convert engaged prospects and acquire new customers.
Great. So I think that I am currently showing my screen. If not, feel free to let me know. But so as Thomas mentioned, I'm here today to talk about reaching your existing customers and leveraging that information to reach prospects on Facebook. So as a digital marketer, the information you have about your customers and your customer base is one of your most valuable assets. And you can really leverage that asset on Facebook, both to re-engage current customers and to find new prospects who are the most likely to convert and be additional loyal customers to you. I'm also going to touch at the end on our new format and sort of technological underlay that allows Facebook product ads, which make this customer and prospecting data even more valuable. So we can jump right in. So as Thomas mentioned, Facebook is really valuable across the funnel and to help you drive any of your advertising objectives. So it's a great awareness play to help you build your brand. There's a tremendous amount of reach on Facebook, and people are very engaged with the platform, so it's a great place to announce a new product or really make sure your brand is top of mind. But what I'm going to focus on today are these bottom three pieces. So consideration, how do you ensure that consumers are aware of the value proposition of your product, that they're starting to consider your product as they're making purchasing decisions? Conversions, how do you acquire new customers, pull them into your funnel, and really make them brand loyalists? And then that loyalty piece is also incredibly important, using cross-sell and upsell techniques on Facebook to ensure that the customers that you do acquire are as valuable to you as possible. So let's talk about some ways marketers could use this data. So imagine you're a dating service. You provide, matches online, and you have a mobile app. You know which users are engaged with that app, and you can see that they are some of your most valuable customers. Or you're a financial services company, and you use direct mail to reach current customers who you think might be ready for an additional product. Say they're credit card users currently, but based on some demographic modeling and propensity modeling, you know that they might be in the market for a home loan. Or maybe you're a retail brand, an e-commerce site, and you have a list of email subscribers who are interested in sales from your brand. You can reach all of these people on Facebook. And what makes it even more valuable is you can layer on the data that Facebook has to make the messaging as relevant as possible. So things like what devices they're using or what devices they own, their geographies, demographic information like age and gender, are they in college, are they parents? All of this information is going to allow you to serve the most relevant creative message, the most relevant offer to the right customer. Building on that, we're also able to create what we call lookalike audiences. So finding people on Facebook who look and behave most like your current customers and are likely to be the best quality prospects. So these are a couple of examples of how Facebook allows that full marketing from consideration through to acquisition and finally driving loyalty with your existing customers. So the three buckets of Facebook targeting that we talk about are core audiences, which is Facebook native targeting. Think about this as anything that we could learn from your behavior on Facebook. So information you put in your profile, things like age and gender, location, your interests and behaviors on Facebook. Custom audiences, which is the ability to reach first-party data, so taking data you have about your current customers tied to an email address, say, and being able to leverage that to reach those individuals on Facebook. And finally, lookalike audiences, which is the extension of those custom audiences, those audiences that you're defining for yourself, where we're able to find consumers who look and behave the most like those seed audiences. There are four things that make this custom audience targeting incredibly powerful on Facebook. The first is Facebook's tremendous scale. So we have 188 million monthly active users on Facebook. I'm sure you guys know anecdotally there aren't a lot of people who aren't engaged on Facebook currently, and that allows us to reach all the consumers that matter to you, all the people that you are trying to reach, your customers, the people who look and behave like them. We also have real identity across device. So Facebook users input their actual information onto the platform, and that allows us to target them on a one-to-one level. Lots of digital platforms have products that allow you to reach your CRM database, but they're using cookies as a proxy. And so you run into issues like cookie deletion, multiple browsers, so you may not see people as a single user across their work computer and their home computer. And then mobile and tablet devices complicate that even further. But with Facebook, we're really able to tie one single cohesive identity to a person and target them individually. That makes our targeting incredibly accurate. None of this is inferred data. This is all data that people are really demonstrating about themselves on the Facebook platform. And finally, it's an incredibly measurable solution. So we're able to track conversions and attribute it to advertising no matter where the exposure or the conversion happens. So imagine an instance where a user is exposed to the ad message on their mobile news feed, but the conversion takes place on desktop. We're able to track that conversion on desktop back to the initial mobile ad as an attributable source. And that's something that's unique to Facebook. So let's talk a little bit about how this process actually works. So we take your data, and there are two sources of that data that we have identified. One is CRM data, so it's data you have on current customers tied to an email address or a phone number, or it's intent data, and this is things like people visiting your website or your mobile application. So we take that data and we match it to the Facebook user base. And what we come up with is an overlapping segment of users who you know and that we can find on Facebook, and then we create that as a targetable segment that you can use to deliver ads. So let's talk about the sources of data. As I mentioned, there are two, CRM and intent data. So CRM data would be things like email addresses tied to past purchase behavior, phone numbers associated with a lifetime value, say, or mobile application usage. So users who've been to your mobile app within the last 7 days or who are highly engaged with that app. And using that, you can use that CRM data across multiple types of objectives. So if you have data on potential customers, you can use it for acquisition, but it's really incredibly strong for things like retention and re-engagement. So if you understand where a user is most likely to churn, where they're most likely to drop off and stop using your product, you can deliver ads targeted specifically to those users to try and keep them engaged with your product. Or you can do cross-sell and upsell opportunities, so identifying your best customers when they're most likely to adopt a new product and hitting them right before when they're in that sweet spot. It's also a great way to mirror and extend email and direct mail efforts that you may be currently engaged in already. So email and direct mail are incredibly successful based on that individualized targeting. You're able to really segment out the people that you're reaching into particular buckets where you know exactly what they're interested in and also what kind of return you expect for those individuals. But we know that people aren't always opening their emails. People are inundated with tons and tons of email these days. There's lots of new services that are trying to make that process simpler for users, and so they may not see your messaging, or they may not open the direct mail that you send them. So Facebook is a great way to enhance those efforts, reach the same users in a different environment where they're really engaged. We know the average Facebook user in the US is checking their newsfeed 14 times a day. So they're really looking for that content, they're engaged with it, and if your message is showing up in that newsfeed stream, they're going to become aware of it, even without opening an email or opening a mailer. When we're talking about intent data, there are really two main sources of this, people who visited your website and people who visited your mobile application. And so this is sort of a classic retargeting strategy. It's really great for acquisition, so people who've already demonstrated intent to purchase or interest in your product, maybe they've made it to your website, they've looked at a particular product, maybe even put it in their shopping cart but haven't converted. This is a great way to push them to the point of conversion. It's also good for cross-selling and upselling. So if you have a site, let's say a financial services site where people log in to view account information, you can find those people who've logged in and retarget them with a message, let's say to download your mobile application. So I talked a lot about reaching your current customers on Facebook and people who've shown intent via website visit or mobile app visit. But those audiences are inherently scale constrained, right? There are only so many of your current customers or people who visited your website. How do you really scale out and reach net new customers? And the answer to that on Facebook is lookalike audiences. So lookalike audiences take a seed audience, most typically your CRM data, people who've recently converted, and project out an audience from there. So we're finding the people who look and behave most like those users on the Facebook platform across thousands and thousands of factors. So we're talking about demographic factors, their age and gender and household income, geographic factors, what kind of devices do they own, what kind of behaviors do they engage in on Facebook, what kind of pages do they like and comment on. So we use all that data that we have, that's really rich data, to find people who look exactly like your most valuable customers. So the best way I've heard this described is, as a personal Facebook user, you log on to your news feed and you see people you might know. So people we think that you should friend. And I'm sure you've all had the experience of logging on and saying, how does Facebook know that I know this person? That's incredible. And lookalike audiences do the same thing for your current customers. So they take connections you already have and they find customers that you should have. So it's an incredibly rich and effective product to find people who are very, very likely to convert and engage with your brand. When we're talking about lookalike audiences, the thing that makes them the most valuable and work the best is an optimal seed audience. So a lookalike audience is really only as good as the data we have as an input. So when you're thinking about how to build custom audiences, you want to think about reaching your very best customers. Who are your VIPs who are driving the most lifetime value for your company? You might think about your most frequent purchasers. Who are those people who are coming back weekly, monthly, and making repeat purchases, showing that they're really engaged with the brand? And then also you want to think about what your goal is. So if your goal is to push out content around, a woman's outerwear sale, for instance, you really want to drive those products, then you're going to want to create a lookalike audience based on people who've purchased in that category before. It doesn't make sense to target people who look like shoe shoppers if you're selling coats. So really thinking about what do you want to drive and what is the best seed audience to start with is incredibly important. Where we see lookalikes that don't perform as well, that's when people are doing things like targeting all of their customers or everyone who's visited their website in the past 90 days. Really being clear about your seed audience is going to drive the best results. When you're building lookalike audiences, the other thing you want to think about is balancing two factors. The first is similarity and the second is scale. So we can find a lookalike audience that looks very, very much like your current customers, your best customers, but the scale is going to be smaller. The more constraints we put on that similarity factor, the smaller the audience is going to be. But if you loosen up those similarity parameters, you're able to get scale really quickly and reach large audiences to gain efficiency. So you always want to be balancing those two factors when you're thinking about lookalikes. And here on this next slide, here's a great way to do that, to go about balancing scale and efficiency. So you start with that custom audience. These are people that you have really strong data about, that you understand very thoroughly. Then the 1% lookalike audience is going to be the 1% of people on Facebook who are most like them. And they're likely to be the most engaged, have the highest conversion rates, and so you may want to bid pretty highly for them. Then you might expand out to a second band, let's say between a 2% and a 4% lookalike audience. And you start to test out what do those conversion rates look like. If they remain strong, great. If they dip a little bit, you might lower your bid to try to balance that efficiency. And you go on and on like that, so you're expanding your scale while maintaining your ability to control bids and to control budgets to really make sure your CPA is as efficient as possible and is reaching your goal. So now I'm going to talk about a couple of use cases for custom audiences and for how to use these customer re-engagement and prospecting tactics. So there are really three big ways to think about this. The first is driving intent by reaching high-value prospects. So this is reaching people who have indicated in some way that they are interested in your product or in your brand. They visited the website, they put something in their cart, or some other indicator in your CRM data shows that they're a very likely prospect. You can reach them to drive very, very efficient conversions. The second thing you might want to do is to try to scale out that program by acquiring new customers who look very much like your best customers. So finding people who are demographically, psychographically, and behaviorally as similar as possible to your audience will help you to drive efficient conversions at scale. And then the third is cross-sell and upsell. So taking your current customers or your recent customers and trying to get them more engaged with your brand. So I always think of financial services as sort of the best case here, or like the easiest to understand. So if a user has a credit card, recently enrolled for a credit card with a financial services institution, You might want to cross-sell them with a mortgage or with a self-serve financial investment product. And the more products that user has from that single financial institution, the less likely they are to go to a competitor when they have a new financial need. It makes the brand incredibly sticky, and it keeps those people very loyal and makes their value, grow exponentially over the lifetime of the customer relationship. And then again, you're able to find all of these people in newsfeed where they're very highly engaged, and where you don't have to rely on email opens and direct mail open rates. They're always seeing this ad as they scroll through their newsfeed, and so you're able to really drive a lot of value that way. I'm going to talk through a couple of use cases for custom audiences from intent data, so how to use website traffic to really drive a lot of value. So imagine you're an online retailer and you're selling shoes. A woman goes to your website over her lunch break on her work computer. She looks at a pair of shoes, puts it in her cart, but ultimately decides not to purchase. With Facebook, you're able to easily and automatically show her that product that she had interest in across devices. So retargeting isn't anything super new in the industry. Lots of people do it, but imagine that same woman in line at the grocery store that evening checking her mobile news feed and seeing that shoe, or on her tablet while she's watching TV that night and relaxing, seeing that shoe again and being driven back to the website to convert. That ability to reach people across their devices at multiple touch points is incredibly important to drive conversions. As we all know, people are increasingly using smartphones and tablets to make purchasing decisions, and it just is part of their media habit. So being able to reach them in those environments is really effective and a Facebook standout. Think about cross-selling and upselling. I alluded to this a little bit before, but imagine that you're a financial services company. Someone logs in to check their account balance, for instance. You know that users who download your mobile application are much more efficient for you. They're less expensive to service, and they're more likely to be loyal and engaged customers. You're able to take that signal, the fact that they logged in to your website, and then serve them a mobile app install ad that directs them to download your application, really increases their value and their loyalty to you. So that covers how to reach current customers, how to leverage your website traffic to drive sales, and how to really find net new customers on Facebook. So now I'm going to talk about Facebook product ads, which is the new format and targeting ability that we've enabled on Facebook very, very recently that makes this targeting capability that much more valuable and easy to implement. Just to quickly caveat, there's a product in here that looks very much like the FBX product, if you're familiar with that. So it's a Facebook exchange where we've partnered with some third parties to be able to do dynamic retargeting across Facebook. It is a very similar product. The big key differentiator is the Facebook product allows that cross-device retargeting. FBX is really great if you are doing lots of third-party display retargeting where you're bidding on exchange inventory. You're able to optimize Facebook and the other exchanges within that same system. So just to caveat that, because I know it can be a point of confusion. With that being said, the Facebook product ads were really made for two goals. The first is demand generation. So how do you put the right products in front of the right consumers and ensure that they're interested in your products and your brand? And the second is demand fulfillment. So once a user has shown intent, how do we make sure that we're making it as easy and streamlined as possible to show that relevant product to the relevant user? And so the two products that we've come up with are our multi-product ads. You can see on the left-hand side here is a carousel of images that users can scroll through, and dynamic product ads on the right-hand side, which is really just a streamlined way of showcasing the most relevant product to a user. So let's start out talking about the multi-product ad. There are a couple of different ways to use it. So one great way is this first example, which is showcasing several different products. So if you're a retailer and you have a new fall line launching, you can showcase a couple of different products, maybe even men's and women's lines, and allow users to do some of the work of figuring out what's interesting to them and what they want to engage with. And in fact, we did see a fashion retailer do this type of execution when we were testing this product in the fall, and they saw a 45% decrease in post-click conversion, as well as a 42% increase in click-through rate. So the fact that both of those numbers moved in a positive direction demonstrates that not only is this an engaging unit, people can scroll through, it's novel, it's exciting, but that it really drives conversion. So showcasing a breadth of products helps consumers to make decisions about what they want to purchase. Another great way to use this multi-product ad is to showcase a couple of different facets of a product. So if you have a complicated product, in this case, a credit card, it might have a couple of different benefits that set it apart in the marketplace. Getting airline miles, or cash back, or having a low APR. And this product allows you to simply showcase all of those product benefits in one unit. And a financial services company that ran this type of unit, also I would say targeting lookalikes off their email database, so really being very targeted in terms of who they were directing this advertising to. They saw a 40% decrease in their cost per lead and a 57% increase in click-through rate. So again, demonstrating that this sort of multifaceted approach to product marketing drove incremental interest in the product itself. And then finally, one of my favorite uses of this type of product is to tell a story. So to tell the beginning, middle, and end of how a user experiences your product. So this is an example from a dating services company where they showcased the beginning of the process, thinking about what it is you want in a match, who you're interested in, then that great first meeting where there's that spark and excitement, and finally that happiness that comes with that committed relationship, that security. So they told all three parts of that dating story, and what they saw is a 1.2 times click-through rate with a significantly lower CPA. So pulling people through that funnel in a single ad unit, being able to tell the story, was incredibly effective for them. Moving on to demand fulfillment. Dynamic product ads, it's not anything super new, but it's something that the industry has been asking of us for a long time. So it basically allows you to upload your product catalog to Facebook and then to remarket using that product catalog to people who are browsing your website or app. So if someone has been looking at umbrellas, headphones, and handbags, which is a little bit of a random assortment of things, you're able to show them exactly those products that they're interested in without having to do a lot of manual work. In the past, we've asked advertisers to segment out URLs and to find keywords to be able to and create lots and lots of different creative variations in order to do this dynamic retargeting. This just makes it much simpler to do that demand fulfillment and ensure that people are getting the product, seeing the products that they're interested in. And then this case study I really love. It comes from Target. They were one of our beta testers for dynamic product ads. And they ran a multi-product version of an ad where they were showing products that a user had looked at online, or a category that they've looked at online. And what they saw was a 2 times increase in conversions across devices. I'm not going to read this quote to you from this Target executive, but basically what she's saying is that Target knows its consumers are increasingly spending their time on mobile devices. They need to get in front of those consumers where they're spending time in order to drive sales. But because of the technical limitations of mobile, it's incredibly difficult to be relevant in that space. What dynamic product ads allowed them to do was to be very relevant very easily in mobile and drive conversions where their consumers are. It's a great case study to showcase that relevancy and mobile-first nature of Facebook advertising. So just quick conclusion, product ads, really great from driving new customers to fulfilling demand with existing customers. The product ads allow you to scale your creative development, so you're not having to create thousands and thousands of creative variations based on your products. and it's a great way to drive sales with Facebook, coupled particularly with those custom audiences, so finding people that you know what they're interested in, and then lookalike audiences, finding prospects and showcasing a breadth of products to them. So thank you so much for your time. With that, I'm going to pass it back to the Zog team to take you through some case studies.
Thank you, Nora, for that obviously very in-depth insight to leveraging the platform with audience targeting. And that's kind of what we're going to go through a couple of examples of 2 clients' case studies on how we've used those exact strategies based on website custom audience pixel to segment users based on their browsing intent and behaviors on our clients' websites. But also utilizing their CRM list from whether it's newsletter recipients to rewards members to also identify those users, but also go into the cycle of creating lookalike audiences based off those lists to better target users who look exactly like them on Facebook, but going an additional step to even identify a much more qualified user with additional Facebook data targeting, layer targeting. So going into our next, just our first case study is for a client of ours, Pet Boys. When it comes to onboarding a client here at Zog, we would definitely want to take a step back and make sure that when it comes to advertising on Facebook, that you're making quality touch points, be engagement within the newsfeed. So, and that all starts with creative. One of the things that we always want to take in consideration is how are you going to stop a user in its tracks scrolling through Facebook with creative, knowing that creative is key. So the objective is to engage users, existing users, whether they've come to your site before, to re-engage them on Facebook, identify more users on Facebook who also look like your current fan base or people who also been to your website with content that's very much engaging. So we create, websites, our strategy was to create audiences based on people who view the Pet Boys website or who have plugged in, our Pet Boys email recipients, identify them through lookalike audiences to increase our reach, and then add additional data layers to identify a much more qualified user. In this case scenario, examples of additional target layers for this particular post was to go after people who are very much car and auto enthusiasts, people who want to show pride in their work and what they're working on. They're part of car clubs. They purchase auto products. They subscribe to automobile public, magazines and publications. But also the bigger one is to tie in a demographic radius targeting to say, hey, we want them to engage with the brand, but they're also pretty close to driving to a store and purchasing product. So by taking a change to just a creative approach, increasing targeting, and identifying and reaching more users based on lookalike audiences, we're able to increase our reach by over 700% and increase engagement across the board. Obviously, you can see our likes, comments, and shares. Month-over-month data, the post on the left is from December. The next stat that we took at it with a new approach on the right in January shows the tremendous change in engagement. So it was to really engage users first, to build these touch points, these quality touch points, and then take those touch points and move it more into a conversion-based marketing strategy. So going into changing that strategy to re-engaging fans or non-fans through lookalike models plus additional data layers, we always keep in mind that creative is key. So when it comes to switching your initiative from page photo posts where you can see now they're all link page posts, the intent here is to really drive traffic back to the website and engage them and set them up for the behavior to convert. So we always keep in mind that creative is going to be key. We want it to be eye-catching to stop them within their scroll or with, on the Facebook newsfeed, but also set them up with a very strong call to action and a user expectation to do something once we drop them on the Pet Boys landing page. So in this case, this was actually from last month. They had a very specific line of product, obviously for alignment. It was alignment month to try to get users to come in and either schedule preventative maintenance or to book an appointment to adjust their car alignment. And also, there's an example in there for tires as well. But really what we do is we take those qualified engagements that we've been making with users along the way and re-engage them with content, but give them much more direct call to action to book an appointment. This was done directly with website custom audiences or people who we previously engaged with on Facebook to give them an action to click back to the Pep Boys website. In this case, we saw an increase in click-through rates for link page posts, particularly as a product type, but our average click-through rate was 1.75%, and it actually resulted in a direct measurable ROI of a 6.3 to 1 investment based on their investment. So overall, making sure that we take engaged users and put them down, lower down the funnel the next time they log into Facebook with a much more conversion or direct response oriented post through link page posts, and tying back exactly what that conversion looks like on the back end through Facebook conversion tracking or third-party data, third-party conversion tracking. Next client to kind of go over is a much more robust approach. Rackroom Shoes, when we first took them on as a client as well, it was doing the exact same thing, kind of changing the way that they approach Facebook and leveraging, touch points of engagement. Again, you can see the change in creative, just kind of making it look more visually appealing. Creative is always going to be key in this situation, but also taking how we identify those users, whether they were current fans or we want to be able to segment to non-fans through in this case it was the rewards email list, to go after people who were not connected to the Rackroom's Facebook page. They were subscribed to their email list, and then as they started to engage, identify that group of users, tell Facebook to identify more of them out there through Lookalike Audiences. On top of that, we were able to identify additional data layers and segment between fans and non-fans, but really it was about engagement first, but also you can see on the example we're giving them the ability to drive back, click back to the website and browse. So just right away going after the engagement approach first, we were able to decrease cost per fan by 44%, increase click-through rates by 510%, and then our average engagement rate overall has been at 7.5% and above ever since. So taking those engagement approach and seeing how we tie it into an overall inclusive campaign, our next, then we went back to the drawing board and saying, okay, back to school is a very big time for them. We want to take these engaged users, people who have come to our website, get them to come to the store, but again, through a back-to-school campaign. The way we approached it is always to continue thinking about what we need to do with them in Facebook is to engage with them. So put quality content in front of them, but at this point it was a matter of who do we put this content in front of. So we used previous website data, so people who've been to the Rackroom Shoes website. We continue to use Lookalike Audiences to increase our reach and our scalability to go after more people who look like our demographic of user. But to identify even higher quality traffic, we introduced additional layers. So obviously they're within geographic within driving distance to the location of Rackroom Shoes. But the biggest picture was we understand that their ideal audience are moms with children in household, and through Facebook targeting, we were able to add that additional layering to identify those users on Facebook. But also through their behaviors and their likes and their interests on Facebook, see if they're also connected to additional brands, similar stores, or other audiences that they know they are actively engaging with that content on Facebook. So once we were able to get in front of them, we wanted to continue to engage them, but also give them the ability to continue to drive back traffic to the website for measurable action. In this case, the road to success was just engaging them with different types of content, introducing videos, introducing just different post mediums to continue to get them lower down the funnel to eventually convert. In this case, introducing just a video that's going to engage the user much more, but also give them the ability to click through and click to a coupon is what we're trying to set them up with this user expectation along the way. Just by implementing a coupon, the entire strategy of back to school, we had millions of unique users reached, over 700,000 engagements from our back to school campaign alone, and also drove over 50,000 users back to the website to just measure their browsing intent and or download a coupon in this case. What that was able to result in, based on these touch points and engagement along the way, we started to switch up more of a stronger call to action with link page posts. Again, this is something that we were able to measure those actions by driving traffic back to the website on Rackroom Shoes give them the ability to download a coupon to print or screenshot a coupon from their mobile device and use in store. There was the unique desktop versus mobile call to action that really played a key part to the way this campaign was going to perform, because as a majority of users log into Facebook via their mobile devices, we wanted to capture exactly that and set that user up for an expectation to just screenshot, make it very much easy to screenshot the coupon on that landing page and drive a measurable action to use it in store. So with that said, we're able to actually get a 10.5, above a 10.5% in-store coupon redemption rate, resulting in an entire campaign for back to school at a 2.5 to 1 ROI.
Awesome. So some excellent client results that we're very proud to go through here with everyone today. And we do have a bit of time to go through some questions. We've received some questions over email, some questions through the webinar panel. I don't think we're going to have time to hit every question, so if your question is missed, we will be sure to follow up with you directly after the webinar. So one of the questions that I wanted to make sure we could cover right away was ways that a health insurance company could leverage product ads. So Nora, I was hoping you could address that one, and maybe under the context of a health insurance company, but also just other types of companies that don't necessarily have maybe a product catalog that may offer services. Are there ways that they can leverage product ads, or are there great alternatives on the Facebook platform?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks so much. So the first thing I would say is that the best use of product ads for something that's not a traditional retailer where you don't have a specific product to showcase is going to be that multi-product ad. So think back to the financial services example I showed, where the 3 panels were really going through 3 separate product benefits. I think that would be a great fit for a health insurance brand if you have, several aspects of the product you want to cover, whether they're emotional or product specific. That's a great option. When it comes to dynamically retargeting, I think that those dynamic product ads are really best used in retail instances where you have lots and lots of products to showcase. Just standard website custom audience retargeting is going to be incredibly effective for something like a health insurance provider. So you're able to segment out people who've been to different parts of your website based on the URL they visited and show them a message that's relevant to them. It doesn't have to be dynamic to be incredibly impactful and relevant.
Awesome. Thanks, Nora. Follow-up question for you, and actually I'm going to combine a couple of questions here because I think there's certainly there's a correlation. So one of the questions was, what are the mechanics of matching Facebook users with email addresses? And then there was also another question that was around sensitivity around a customer database, and we hear about this a lot.
Sure.
How can marketers on Facebook safely and securely provide their customer data to Facebook? So I guess addressing that piece, and then the mechanics behind that matching process.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with the mechanics, and then we can talk through the privacy piece. So for Facebook users, we have a set of email addresses that are associated with them. So we, on our end, have the ability to match email addresses with a Facebook user ID. So if you have email addresses, we're able to match them to the email addresses we have for users and to create that target audience, that custom audience. So again, very simple match process. What allows it to be privacy safe, and what is the next piece of that, is that we're doing it not based on actual email addresses, but based on hashed versions of those email addresses. So what you do is you take your list of customers, you upload it to a specific section of the Facebook Audiences portal, the ad portal, and we hash that data before it ever hits our servers. So we never see a list of actual email addresses from you, which keeps it incredibly privacy safe. We are then using the same hash technology to hash our data and matching it on that hashed key. not to go into too much of the technical stuff, but basically, because we're using the same hashing process, each email and unique email address will have the same hashed identification, so we can do the match, but it's not possible to reverse it. So once we have that hash data, we can't go back and find the actual email address. So it's actually incredibly privacy safe. If you do have additional questions, there are resources that Facebook can provide to you to show exactly how that's being done. So I would say, reaching out to Zog to be able to get some of that information is probably a good next step.
Good deal. And we'll combine a couple of other questions here too, and they relate to budget and addressing budget when it comes to Facebook advertising campaigns. One of the questions was, should a budget on Facebook advertising or for Facebook advertising be a part of a overall kind of digital marketing budget, or should it reside in maybe another bucket that's focused around different business objectives? And then one of the other questions was, should I only invest in advertising on Facebook since I have to pay for my content to be seen? Does it make sense to invest in high quality content when I have to put ad budget behind it as well? And I'll kind of address that first part, and then let Chris speak to it as well. But we get this a lot with prospective clients in terms of how to allocate budget and where sort of Facebook fits into the mix. Questions also come up around, a social media marketing team. Should an advertising budget on Facebook reside within that team? Should it be a part of a separate team? We really try to boil it down to two simple metrics, and one is acquisition and the other is engagement. Now, the catch-22 with that is you need budget for both to be effective on Facebook. There are marketers that are, candidly a bit better at acquiring customers, and there are some that are better at really engaging users with high-quality content. So our approach, and Chris really, spoke to this and illustrated it during the client results piece of this, is that you really need high-quality content on Facebook to drive some consistent engagement, and then seize the right opportunities at the right time to market to people with acquisition strategies. Do you want to speak to that, Chris, in terms of your kind of drafting strategy or anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you need to invest as a brand in providing quality content to your potential consumer or your current consumers. You want to make those engaging touch points happen on a platform they're continuously logging in. As Nora alluded to, the average user logs in upwards of 14 times a day. And those are great opportunities to get your brand in front of them to engage with your content. Obviously, it takes an initial investment to invest in, in creating that content. But with Facebook and its platform currently stands, you need to be investing also in getting exposure to that content. So paying to promote your posts and get visibility. Looking at that and diving a little deeper is, you want to make that a right investment and actually target exactly who you want with this content through whether it's browser intent on website custom audiences or lookalike audiences, or regardless, you need to add those additional data layers to identify that right user to put that content in front of. So it's making an investment, but doing it wisely by targeting exactly who you want to make those touch points with. But it also correlates with taking those touch points that you're already investing in and then turning them into converting users, moving them lower down the funnel. So you also, it very much correlates with your conversion, your acquisition side of the business to turn those users into a return. So there definitely needs to be communication between those two teams if you're currently segmenting your engagement budget versus your converting budget. But it definitely needs to be it needs to be together and communicated together in order for it to be effective.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the other questions that came up, and I think this may be the last question unless we can get to one more, but it was another industry-specific question, something we hear quite often, and that was around marketing for B2B on the Facebook platform. Nora, have you seen specific examples with B2B, or do you have any particular recommendations for how B2B marketers in particular can use Facebook?
Yeah, Absolutely. B2B is definitely a vertical that performs incredibly well on Facebook. One of the biggest things I've seen as a success in that category is using lookalike audiences. So typically, B2B advertisers have a really good sense of who their current customer base is. They have email addresses. And so to be able to go out and find people who are in exactly those industries and job functions that they want to target based on lookalikes has been incredibly effective. The other thing we've seen B2B advertisers do more and more of recently is to use Facebook advertising to enhance their sales conversions. So if your sales team has a lead and it typically takes them 4 weeks to convert that lead of conversations and information, what you can do with Facebook is target exactly those people in their news feed with content that supports what your sales team is saying. So with articles, relevant industry news that really underlays their pitch, and we've seen that help to shorten the time that it takes to close those leads for the sales team in a way that's really efficient for B2B advertisers.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Nora, for your time and great participation and content, of course, for this webinar. I want to thank everyone for attending this morning. As I mentioned at the beginning, we will be sending out this webinar to all attendees. We also, if you've attended any of our webinars in the past, we put together what we call Learn, essentially a white paper, a single document that covers all of the best practices, the findings, everything that we've gone through today. Again, for those of you that did not have your question addressed, we'll be sure to follow up with you here shortly after the presentation to make sure we can cover everything. So thank you again, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.